Hey race fans, welcome to another edition of Top Gear 2. This is Captain Paladin LP here, and we're now heading to Germany. And first race is Bavaria, length 1.2 miles per lap with 5 laps, and it's 8:30 a.m. with rainy, with 100% chance of showers, I guess you could call that. I'm going to go quickly change our color here to black. I'm not sure what kind of resemblance that is, and don't ask. But this is probably one of the most interesting races before we actually get into probably more difficult ones. So, away we go here. And, oh, look out, people, look out. And we start off. Now, as you go along in these races right here, the tracks gets a little more slick when there's rain on them. And this is probably the first race that we'll ever get to see snow. So, and these bastards are not making it easy to get around. I kind of would like my engine, please. Thank you. Zoom, 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 zoom. Because if we'll have enough money to go get the I think it's the V12. I don't have the instruction booklet like I used to, but if I'm not mistaken, it's going to be the V12. Finally, after 2 laps, we are first place. Sheesh. But 1 minute in, we got 3 laps left. Now, when we get the most powerful engine, now let's just say you'll be able to spam your nitros pretty well if you're, going at speeds over 250. Alright, get out of my way. Derp, whatever. But here we go. Mind you, I did mention probably in the previous country, my ancestry is German, not the, Nazi German. No. My grandparents were descendants from I think from 1800s, so it was during that time. I guess we call Martin Luther. Well, that's even before 1800. What am I saying? But I had one of my German descendants is one of the founders of the University of Michigan, and a lot of my family, my grandmother's roots come from Michigan. So a lot of her family used to live around the Fremont, Indiana, which is around the northeast corner of Indiana. So it's kind of right near the Michigan and Indiana border. I mean, they've lived on both sides of the border for a long time. So, but yeah, and got another first place win, and we go into the next race here. Cologne, 2.0 miles per lap, 3 laps, 8:15 p.m. and sunny skies. It's probably dusk, getting close to sunset by now on this. But here we go, we get the V12, the most powerful engine in the entire game, and you will see why. You will see why. In this next next race here. I mean, all we have left is side armor and rear armor to get. Really not much left to get in terms of purchasing stuff, but this one you could say it's probably nitro friendly on most curves, so you just gotta watch how you handle your speed when going 250 miles an hour. Speaking of 200 miles an hour, it's kind of like remembering oh gosh, a Bill Cosby skit from when he did it in the 1960s. he did a skit about he bought a car that went. I guess it has the capability of going 200 miles an hour. I guess they have made cars like that car. It's not street legal, of course, but one can drink, because my car's engine, you can go probably 130, but I don't go 130, but here we go. And you can probably hear the roar of the engine just last and last with everything that you've gotten right here. But yeah, Germany, I don't know. It's kind of one of those countries, you know. I mentioned that, yes, during the Cold War, it was divided east and west, with the Soviets, of course, then the Soviets, now Russians, controlling the eastern part, you know, prior to this, when this game was made, and France, Britain, and also the United States had their own military zones, military control zones in the western part of the country. So, and my relatives who live currently in Ohio have lived in West Germany before. Look at that, 240 miles an hour, and it's wow, that was fast. And it's only going to be like that from now on. I mean, going on an inertia in this game is going to be pretty crazy. 154.06. That is pretty fast, but it's only going to get much worse later on. But now we go to Frankfurt. Foggy conditions, 1.6 miles per lap. 4 laps and 7:45 a.m. And we're only got 7 minutes into this LP, and I'll tell you, these episodes are only going to get short. They're going to be around 10 minutes. I mean, without a doubt. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But as we continue, we now have the ability to kind of stay with the crowd initially. That will no one notice before. No one will pass us from behind when we initially start. Now we have a little bit of an advantage over that, but eventually, you know, they will catch up to us the further along you go, of course. But there we go. We got another nitro there. This is a fairly nitro-friendly country when it comes to these tracks. However, the however will come into the next track, and will be the first time you'll run into a different kind of weather climate. So, you know, be prepared. Yeah, the engine just roars. You think that's bad? Wait till you play 2 players. I mean, I don't know. When you play 2 players version in this game, the engine roars are even louder, because you got the roar of both of them when you actually, you know, play this game. And of course, we had to run into somebody right there. Go figure. It's probably getting even. I just revealed I'm a Nazi. No, I'm just kidding. I am not a Nazi. I'm a good German descendant. Even though considering that I do have British royalty in my heritage, Germans were part of the British monarchs for quite a while throughout British royalty. So, I mean, if you remember the Hessians back in the Revolutionary War, they were German mercenaries. So, get out of the way, you dumbass. Gosh. Probably getting even. These probably are Americans who just cannot resist the fact of having a German heritage and Nazi, whatever. Given that, you know, the history, if you want to know happened in the aftermath of the North and South, or not East and West, I guess you could say. 2 minutes, 15.58 seconds. That's pretty darn good. But if you ever watched, I don't know, I think it's called The Reader. I don't know what you. It's basically a movie about this. I guess what you call a former, I guess, Nazi woman who had served in the military, and apparently, it wasn't discovered until later because she fell in love with this 15-year-old boy, and there's a lot of sex in that movie, of course. Rated R, but here we go. 2.8 miles, 3 laps, 4:10 p.m. This is a little crazy, so let's just get some side armor here. Now, side armor is, I don't think is not as important as your front armor, but that will make your life more hell if you don't have side armor. Rear armor, I'll explain that probably when we do get it, because that one's a little bit, so initially here we just fire up our nitros right away, because now when you go around these curves, virtually it's sort of like when you start to use your nitros, once you hit those curves, you're going to start sliding pretty quickly. Really. As you notice right here, you're barely, when you're going over 220 miles an hour, you're barely sort of like, you're losing traction just almost instantly. Almost. That's what this snow do. And of course you do get your wet tires, but they only reduce the amount of loss of traction pretty much. But probably for this particular race, you just go on the top and bottom edges there. What this looks like an N though. Go ahead and just use your nitros. Be very conservative when you use your nitros in snowy tracks, because they're gonna make your life a living hell on these curves. But back to what I was talking about. Yeah, I guess if you want to know what happened post, post World War II, what happened to Germany, the kind of climate they've actually had to change. My suggestion, if you can look up the movie called The Reader, and that, I think even despite the sex scenes, of course there's going to be a lot of, because even in Schindler's List, I've watched Schindler's List just recently, and that had a lot of sex scenes to it too, but at the same time, it's one of those, of course. But even with nudity, I think there was one movie in that one Best Picture called Shakespeare. This is basically, it was just somewhat of an autobiography of the movie, the times of Shakespeare, and how he was like upper middle class compared to everyone else in England. But this was around the reign of Queen Elizabeth, of course. But now we're going around. Fuel low, when you see that, that's really, I have never had an instance where you run out of fuel, to be quite honest with you, but I don't know. In Top Gear 1, you'll probably see that more often, because you're not always on track, but because you're going longer tracks with multiple laps. But I think this was going to do it for this episode of Top Gear 2. And in the next episode, more or less the next country, we go to probably one of the most difficult countries there is in terms of Top Gear, more or less Top Gear racing. And we're going to go through Greece. And the first track is called Athens, so we'll take it from there next time. This is Captain Paladin LP here, signing off, and have yourselves a good day. Bye bye, folks.